The Charlotte Hornets have me buzzing right now. So I've been watching the NBA for maybe 15 to 20 years, and in my time that I've watched the NBA, the Charlotte Hornets have never been great. They've been good, but they've never been great. You know, dating back to the Kemba Walker days, Kemba was a fantastic player, but the team surrounding Kemba back in the days, back when Michael Jordan was managing the team, they weren't good. This year's Hornets, after the new year, have been winning quite a lot of games and against some notable opponents too. They've bet the Celtics, they bet my Celtics, they bet San Antonio, they bet Dallas, they bet teams like Atlanta. Obviously there's some bad teams in there that they beat as well, like Washington and the Pelicans, but there have been some pretty impressive wins in there, especially the Celtics win. I guess this is my way of giving my shout out to the Charlotte Hornets. I love it when small market teams win. I think it's fun and exciting to see smaller teams win, just so we can get a bit more parity in the league. One of the main reasons why I think they're winning is because of coaching. I think Charles Lee has done an amazing job with this Charlotte Hornets team. Now, I know a little bit about Charles Lee, like he was an assistant coach during the title run that we had in 24. So I think a lot of the coaching philosophies that he picked up from his time in Boston has been translated to the Charlotte Hornets. When I watch them play a little bit, they do like to spray the ball. They do a lot of drive and kick, which is very similar to how Boston plays as well. They have players like LaMelo that can drive into the paint and collapse the defense, which is, it works really well for their system. But the main reason why coaching has helped them win games is because Charles Lee has got them to buy in on the defensive end. Defense on most nights in the NBA comes down to effort. Like, sure, you have, personnel limitations when it comes to becoming like a great defensive team. Like, someone who's 6'1" is never going to be as good as someone who's like 6'6" or 6'7" that can, with long arms and stuff like that, right? But most nights, you can combat that with motor and with intensity. And that's what defense is majority of the time. When it gets into the playoffs, it's a little bit different. Those physical limitations do arise to the surface when you're in the playoffs. But in the regular season, because they play so many games, those physical limitations can be hidden or they don't show up as often. And with the way that the game is being played now, like with all the speed and all the spacing, being a smaller, quicker guard that can close out is valuable. But I'm not saying that the Charlotte Hornets have this type of personnel limitations. Like, I think LaMelo is 6'7", and Brandon Miller's like 6'10". So even like, it's not like they have physical limitations. But what I'm saying is Charles Lee has gotten the buy-in from all of his players to play defense, and that's why they're winning most of their games. And then Charles Lee, as mentioned, like he has taken some philosophies from his time in Boston, the whole drive and kick system, spread out for three. They have decent three-point shooters as well. Concanipo especially. Brandon Miller can hit a three. LaMelo can hit a three. Obviously, LaMelo is the driving force behind the driving kick system, but he can also knock down a catch and shoot, which is also very good. And shout out to a couple players, man. Brandon Miller, ever since he came back from injury, has been balling. He changes the whole team dynamically. Like, he's just another big, strong forward that you can rely on night in and night out. I think he's like 6'10". He gives me shades of Paul George, but just a little bit bigger than Paul George. Or he is bigger than Paul George. He's like 6'10", and I think Paul George is like 6'8". But he's a bit more athletic than Paul George. Maybe not as refined. Maybe the skills aren't as refined as PG was back when PG was playing. But I think those skills can be developed, right? Brandon Miller is still very, very young. So I think he'll eventually get to that point. LaMelo has, to me, matured slightly. When I used to watch him play, he gave me a bit of an immature vibe. But I think as he's gotten older, those immature vibes have slowly started to decline. I believe he wants to start winning now. Like, I believe he wants to play a team sport. Because when he was, like, a few years ago, right, he gave me the feeling of being not selfish, but more about his own stats and trying to, prove himself as a star. And he has done that. Like, he has proven himself to be a star. Like, he's a legit all-star. I don't think he's not a legit all-star. Believe right now, I think he cares more about winning. At least that's the vibe he's given me this season. His maturity level has improved, so I believe he's playing better team basketball overall. Charlotte Hornets hit on 2 draft picks. One being Brandon Miller, which I touched on a little bit before. I do think Brandon has all-star potential, maybe superstar potential. Not too sure about that, but definitely all-star potential. But I believe the biggest hit in the last 15 years has been Concunipal. When I watch Concunipal play, he gives me Klay Thompson vibes. I know it's super early. I'm not saying he's the second reincarnation of Klay, but he reminds me of Klay. It's the way he moves with and without the ball. He moves with and without the ball so effortlessly. There's no wasted movements. He gets to his spot, 1-2 dribble pull-ups, and he's a great shooter. And Concunipal is averaging like 18, 5, and 3 for the season as well. But Con doesn't play like a rookie. He has this calmness that I haven't seen from many rookies in the past. Like, he just has this calmness. He's cool and collected. Very similar to Klay, right? Klay has this cool and calmness about him. He's not shy of the big moments. And, I think Con has true all-star potential, maybe even superstar. Yeah, definitely reminds me a little bit of Klay. I could see him being the next Klay Thompson, which is very good. I mean, Klay Thompson's a Hall of Famer, 4 titles. That's awesome. But yeah, I'm very excited to see where Con ends up in the next few years. So what's the Charlotte Hornets' current standings and playoff situation? They're currently ranked 10th in the East, and they're currently in the play-in, right? So I actually believed that they would make the play-in, and they're currently in the play-in right now, and they're 10th. But they're only 4 games out of the 6th spot, which is Orlando. And above them is Miami, Atlanta, Philly, and the Magic, right? Could they get into the 6th seed and potentially have to go up against like a Cleveland or a New York in the first round? Could I potentially see Charlotte maybe giving an upset to the Cavs or maybe New York? I definitely can. They're only 4 games out. They're not that far. And with the way that Orlando has kind of been playing this year, they haven't been that great. So I could see them potentially getting into like the 7th seed or even like the 6th seed if we're being lucky, if they catch all the right breaks. Because they're only 4 games out, so it's not that bad. But 4 games with 20 games left, very, very unlikely. I think they probably end up in the 8th seed. I think they do lose to Miami, maybe. But I think if they have to go up against Detroit, they'll give them a run for their money. Alright guys, that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers!